So the rise of the right. So different ways to define left and right. We could certainly say, though, that what was once considered fairly far right is now considered central. The right has risen all over the world in different ways, winning elections left, right, and centre, to strain the analogy. So, what does it mean to be right wing? Well, there's different ways of defining it. It's fairly complex, but one, however, would be the explanation for problematic things in society and in the individual will be down to the individual. So the rise of the right can be linked to the rise of individualism. So why is someone poor? Is it because of the education system or the structures and systems of society? No, it's because they're lazy. Yeah. So again, we look at this. It's also associated with lower levels of psychological development. Yes, such a thing as lower and higher does exist in this format, which is why it can seem sort of primitive. And lower levels particularly associating with the ethnic group, whether that's a religious group, perhaps a national group, religious group, can get mixed together in some places. Israel, for example. It might be like, Britain, we're going to leave Brexit, no matter, we're going to do Brexit, we're going to leave Europe no matter what, even if it doesn't make any kind of sense economically, because what matters is our ethnic group, or perceived ethnic group, not necessarily even a real ethnic group. Yes, this kind of level of development, this kind of psychological stage, if you will, sees very much in terms of us and them. Yeah, us and them. So psychologically, that's very, very tempting, even if one is at a higher level of development, to regress down to that stage of development, where we see us and them. So why, what's the responsibility for my problems? Well, other people, it's the individuals, but for me, my problems, it's the group. We can actually say it's the other that's responsible. So it's the immigrants taking my job, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, whatever. Just put in your favourite thing there. There's other. Yeah. So I think that, we can also look at this not just as a psychological thing, though of course we need to look at the psychology, but there's a deliberate manipulation happening where people in power want these lower levels of development because they're easier to manipulate. It's easier to say, yes, the cause of your problems is not us ripping you off, which has been happening for many, many hundreds of years, but it's these other people. If we just get rid of them, then that will solve the problem. Things have complex causes. And that's really difficult to hold, particularly when you're in pain, if you're suffering. To say, well, it could be this, it's a bit of that, it's a little bit of that, which is what the sort of more complex kind of left would do, to just say, well, it's people taking your jobs, it's the dirty Muslim terrorists, or whatever. Yeah. So this reduces the kind of uncertainty and ambiguity of life to something very clear. So it makes the complexity of life, which is scary, to be very simple. Fear is really central to this rise of the right. The growth of fear, and the encouragement of fear, which we'll see in the media. If you look at any Fox News or Daily Mail in the UK, you'll see the motivating of people with fear is very much at the heart of this. If we look at the psychological side of this, so that's really at the heart of it, motivating with fear rather than with hope. And you'll actually see that, we go high, they go low. Well, yeah, they went low and they won, So that's a very powerful thought. So it's very powerful to motivate with fear. It's very powerful, this either them or us, black or white kind of thinking. Certainty, we live in a world that has all this choice, or at least seeming choice. You can do any job, and there's all these products in the supermarket. It's actually kind of scary for people. What psychological studies have shown is that choice actually creates unhappiness. So by providing the certainty of saying this is how it is, and I'm going to be in charge, and it's all fine now, we could look at this psychodynamically. It's sort of like dad's got it, dad's in charge, dad will keep you safe from the scary people which have been created over there to make you in fear. You can think of it as a kind of systematic putting of the world in that fight or flight response. And you'll see the left in this response too, of a kind of triggered fight or flight, adrenal kind of mechanism. And it's difficult to think rationally long term and to be compassionate when in that reactive space. So critical to the psychology of the right is this fear and also anger. In Buddhism we can talk about just the aversive response more generally. That's actually encouraged because it keeps people in that more primitive way of operating, who would actually be much smarter and much kinder, much more inclusive, were they thinking straight. So there's a few little thoughts on the psychology of the right.